Everybody ready?
Yep.
Good. Thank you for coming. My name is Rob Davies. I'm the chair of what we call the Lucy. This time, be quiet. The Master Association has a stormwater and pond management committee. We've been in operation for about 4 years now, with some ups and downs in terms of what we've been able to do. But today we're going to just do a little bit of the history and management of our ponds and why we have them and what we're doing with them and what should be done with them. And it's time for you guys to ask questions and anything that you want to know about the ponds. We have also two pond committee members, Annie Collier, and Steve Ashton. Alan Hahn has been an observer and participant in a bunch of our ponds, and he has one of our Adopt a Pond projects. Lucy's got one of our Adopt a Pond projects, and that's it, I think, for right now. So you can ask lots of questions about all this stuff. Now I just have to figure out how to move to the next slide. This was Kings Point originally here. That's what it looked like. So there are some natural ponds in here, but as most of you who've lived here for a while and seen what's happened in development, we just bulldoze everything and we do what's in the right side. If a drop of water lands on any development in Florida, it's supposed to stay there. Okay, it's not supposed to run off. So if 1 million gallons of water fall in Kings Point, 1 million gallons of water is supposed to stay here. And that's what the ponds are for. It's to control that storm water so it doesn't run off. Otherwise, where would our drinking water come from? So it's real important. It's real important that we think about that. So the Master Association is responsible for compliance with all federal, state, and local regulations. The Clean Water Act is what really started pushing stormwater management programs throughout the country. Because in the past, I think all of us thought, myself included, was what's the best thing to do with rainwater? Get rid of it. Make a ditch, run it in the Mississippi River, and flood everything downstream of where the water goes in. And that's pretty much what we've done for years and years and years. Now the thinking is, don't let the water get anywhere. Stop it where it lands. Have a lot of vegetation to slow the water down and to let it to sink in, and it sinks into our aquifer. So that's really important. The master has a budget for pond management activities. Part of the budget is for professional services. Part of the budget is for a pond management company. They're the ones that come around and deal with invasive species and algae on the ponds. So if you find in your pond you've got problems, particularly with algae, usually what happens is you'll send either your POC or you will call Kathy Crawley in the master's office and she'll put a work order in. Those of you that are POCs, you can actually use the upkeep system. There's a little link in there for pond maintenance. And just click on that pond maintenance, that automatically puts it into the work order system, which is better than everybody calling me and me doing everything. And then there's budget. Part of the budget is for planting the ponds, and we'll get to planting the ponds in a bit. We are seeking assistance from everybody in our pond management, stormwater management program, and we've been successful in getting approximately $10,000 from a number of different sources: Audubon Society, Love Your Lakes, Tampa Bay Estuary Program, donations from neighbors to do some of the activities to make our ponds better. And we will continue to do that because I, like the rest of you, live here. I don't want to see my HOA fees go up, so if we can get money from somebody else to do what we need to do, let's do it. And Annie has done a tremendous job with working with a number of grant agencies so far. Who owns the water? The state of Florida owns the water. It's not yours, it's not mine, it's not the master. The state of Florida. So the state of Florida says, any water that flows out of here has to meet state of Florida water quality standards. So there's weirs in all the ponds. And if the ponds fill up enough that water goes into weirs, most of those weirs go to another pond and another pond and another pond. Eventually get into Cypress Creek or the Little Manatee State Park. That water that goes into that creek is supposed to meet water quality standards. And again, there's reasons why we do some things to make those water quality standards. The master or club link owns, at some point, they may own 10, 15, 20 feet up from the edge of the pond, and other instances they own right to the edge of the pond. And so your association may or may not own right to the water's edge. The master's been working on looking at all of the association maps to determine where the property line is on all those types of things. Because some associations are like, I don't want you to do anything on my land. And some are like, well, if you're going to do something on my land for free, and it's going to be pretty and have flowers, go ahead. Hillsborough County Public Utilities, Environmental Protection Commission have standards. Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission have a lesser role in the ponds. And the stormwater system must be maintained for the life of the system. So when we originally built this place, there was a design, and that design said, this is what we're going to do, this is how it looks, this is how the weirs are constructed. This is the planting plan for the ponds, because the plants act as filters, just like you have an oil filter in your car, or an air filter in your car, or an air filter in your house. Plants act as a water filter to clean things up in your system. So the primary reason for the ponds, I sort of said flooding, but the primary reason, and I heard a lecture by a Dr. Bean from the University of Florida, and he said the primary reason for our ponds is they are the first step in treatment of your drinking water. And we don't think about our drinking water being the pond outside of our house. We think the drinking water comes out of the faucet and it comes from some unknown place, from Tampa Water, or some well or a river or a treatment plant or something like that. But really most of the water in Florida is coming from the ponds out in front of your house. We have, last people get to sit in the front row. Okay. How the deal goes. Flood control. So again, let's take that 1 million gallons of water that falls on Kings Point. And let's say that's a 100-year flood situation, which is 24 inches of water, no, 12 inches of water in a 24-hour period is a 100-year flood standard. So, and I don't know that it's true, but I think it's true. That we probably designed the stormwater system to deal with a 100-year flood. So 12 inches of water, 24 hours. Okay? So we can handle that amount of rainfall in the capacity of the ponds that we have right now. Now, if you think about the last 2 hurricanes we had, we really only had major flooding in 2 neighborhoods, and that was Princeton and Tremont, because a weir got clogged. And the weir got clogged because debris got on top of it, and it didn't have a baffle around it. If it had a baffle around it, that probably wouldn't have happened. So that's a maintenance issue that not we, but ClubLink needs to deal with. So we only got, I think, 8 inches of water in that storm. But if we were on the other side of the track of that hurricane, they're getting 12 to 18 inches of water north of us. If we had that situation, if any of you ever drive across the bridge, most of you don't know there's a bridge on Kings Boulevard, but there's a bridge on Kings Boulevard. You know where the mailbox is and the irrigation place? There's a little bridge there, and Cypress Creek goes under. If you go by there after a big storm, you'll see that the water is maybe 1 or 2 feet below that bridge. So if we got the 18 inches or something like that, that bridge could have been compromised. So we have a system right now within Kings Point to deal with that 12 inches of rain, if in fact that's the design standard. But if we have more than that, and we're a watershed, we're the bottom of the Cypress Creek watershed. The watershed goes all the way up to 19th. Turn your phones off, okay? Make sure you turn your phones off. That's, so if you look at, if you really take a good look at the neighborhood, all the water from Sun City Plaza, all the water from CVS and Sun Towers and everything across the street and 674, that all comes toward us. Everything's coming toward us. So one of the things that we've looked at is like what's really going to happen with more development. Now technically, again, every drop of rain is supposed to stay where it is. So every drop of rain that falls on the developments on 19th Avenue are supposed to stay there. You know, do I believe that? I don't know. We'll find out. Filtering of pollutants. So we want to take out the oil and the dog poop and the dog urine and whatever you poured out in your lawn or when you wash your car in your driveway, which you're not supposed to do. Those pollutants all go into the storm sewers, all the storm sewers go into the ponds. So there's no filter between you washing your car and the pond. So the filter, again, are plants. Preventing sedimentation from entering the water. If you walk around and look at all the ponds, and you look at where the inflow pipes are, and if you want, that map in the back shows where all the outflow and inflow pipes are of the whole system. There's little yellow lines with little arrows. And so where all the inflow pipes are, you'll notice many, many ponds. The easiest pond to look at is the one out behind the South Club parking lot. That's the parking lot that's on the Vilmont side. And you'll see that that inflow pipe is clogged. Or the first pond you come to when you go up Gloucester Boulevard, Pond 2 on your right, that pond is very, very clogged with sediment. So you want to keep sediments out of that. You want to keep sediments out of the whole system. Our system, for the most part, is a chain of lakes. So Pond 3 flows into, Pond 3 is a bad example. But some of our ponds just go from lake to lake to lake to lake to lake to lake to lake, and then eventually into Cypress Creek. We don't want all those sediments going into Cypress Creek. Those sediments then go from Cypress Creek into Little Manatee. They go to Little Manatee and they go to the bay. So, and they have nutrients in them. Do we want nutrients in the bay? What's causing the grass kill, the seagrass kills in Tampa Bay? It's nutrients. So, so what we put on our lawns affects what's going on in Tampa Bay. It starts with our front yard. It prevents shoreline erosion. The older ponds, the older neighborhoods, you'll see there's a fair amount of erosion on the shorelines. All that erosion is going into the ponds, decreasing the capacity of the ponds. So back to that 1 million gallons of water, all of a sudden, 20, 30, 40 years later, that pond is no longer 8 feet deep or whatever. And Steve has joined the committee recently. He's visited all 87 ponds and found that roughly 63% of the ponds do not meet the original design capacity of at least 8-foot depth. So that's the amount of sedimentation that's happened over the years to our ponds. And a lot of that is because we didn't put any filters between the roads and the sidewalks in the ponds and what's flowing down across our lawn. And then the other thing that pond stormwater systems are supposed to do is provide a diverse wildlife. And if you look around at the ponds here, one of the things when I visit different neighborhoods, as I'll say to people in the neighborhood, look around this pond. Do you see a bird? Do you hear a bird? Do you see any wildlife at all? Do you see a flower? Okay, so when you go home, take a look at those things and say, gee, do I have a diverse wildlife in my pond environment or in my neighborhood? And that's one of the primary purposes of the system. So we talked enough about that, and we talked enough about that. And what's interesting is we don't really think about what else is in the pond. Are we thinking about the invertebrates in the pond? So if we spray for algae, is it killing the invertebrates? And who eats the invertebrates? Is it the fish eat the invertebrates? So how many people fish in here? Anybody? Any fish people? So where do you get good fish? You get good fish because there's food in there, and the food is smaller than the fish. So where does a baby fish hang out in a pond with no plants? It has no place to hide. So if you want baby fish to get bigger fish, to feed bigger fish, you have to have plants for the baby fish to hide in. So when you look at the whole ecosystem of each one of our ponds, you want to think about, gee, are we creating a diverse environment, ecosystem for our ponds? And a lot of people think about things like, you're going to ruin my view, okay? And most of the plants in the pond are low plants, and they're not going to ruin your view. Are they going to add to wildlife? Sure, they're going to add to wildlife. Are they going to filter the water? Yes. They're going to do a whole bunch of things that you and I want. We want clean water coming out of our faucet. So the question is a 3 or 4 foot plant better than or worse than having clean water come out of our faucet? So who knows what this is? Anybody know what this is? So this would be a dragonfly larva eating a mosquito larva under the water. So, and it's in an environment where there's plants. And the next photograph is a dragonfly coming out of the larval stage, going into adult stage, and they can only do this if there's a plant. So they come out of the water, they look for a plant to shuck off their larval shell and get ready to move on. And what are dragonflies known for? Eating mosquitoes. So every year I get these phone calls, can I put mosquito-eating fish in the ponds? Because the county advertises mosquito-eating fish. And I'm like, yeah, but they're there already. The mosquito-eating fish, there's all the fish in the pond, for the most part, are eating mosquito larvae, in addition to the other insects that are eating mosquitoes. So you don't really have to worry about it. The biggest thing, because I studied how do you get mosquitoes. Magnolia leaves are a big source of mosquito larvae, and because they curl, they get on the ground, they get wet, and in come the mosquito and lay their eggs in magnolia leaves. I didn't know that. But when you look at how to get rid of mosquitoes, that comes up. So, this is kind of repeating what I said, right? So we'll just go on. So here's the rain coming down on our I didn't get there, detention pond. Our ponds either detain or retain water. Retain means the water stays there forever. So up in the Highgate area, pond number 4, that water goes nowhere except either up or down. It either evaporates or percolates. Either goes down and enters the watershed, or it evaporates. There's no pipes going anywhere in that pond. Unless there's a big flood, then it goes over to Pond 1, over the Gainsborough area, and then it floods into Gloucester Boulevard. And that whole area becomes a pond. Again, it allows material to settle, be absorbed, nutrients can be used by pond flora. It's required to have plants around the perimeter to reduce runoff. And again, the water is absorbed or evaporates. So here's our house, and you see the water comes down, and some of the water through infiltration or percolation is going to go straight down into the watershed. And what goes off your roof, and it's interesting because some of you probably live in a neighborhood where the water goes off your roof, it goes into a gutter, it goes into a downspout, and it goes into a pipe that's buried in the front yard, and it goes straight into the pond. So what does that do? It takes the dirt on the roof and it puts it straight in the pond, and it speeds up the process of the water going away from your house. It doesn't go down into the water, into the aquifer as quickly. So the neighborhoods, and that's one of the recommendations the pond committee will be making to masters and to the associations, that if you have an association with your drain pipes going straight into ponds, that needs to stop. Because all that does is increases the flooding possibility, because you're speeding up how fast that pond fills up by doing that. So it's always interesting to think of a drop of water also. So we get a drop of water, and a drop of water falls on our sidewalk. And what happens when it falls on our sidewalk? You know, it's going to pick up all the sediments Those of you that have garages don't appreciate this as much as those of us that don't have garages, but those of us that don't have garages, you wash your car and 3 days later there's a layer of silt and sand and grit on your car. And why is that there? It's from air pollution. Where is the air pollution coming from? There's 2 coal-fired power plants, one in Apollo Beach and one down in Parrish. So the air pollution from those power plants is dropping on us. And it's dropping on our roofs, it's dropping on our sidewalk. All that gets washed into the ponds in the storm. So we've got 3 zones to think about. You've got a landscape zone, a vegetative buffer zone, and a littoral zone. And the landscape zone, you really want to, in Hillsborough County, you're not supposed to put anything like herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizer within 10 feet of the pond. And I think if anybody's ever watched the landscapers, you might see something different than that. Okay, and plus, you or somebody else will say, oh my God, there's a weed out in my lawn, and it doesn't look like a perfect lawn, and that needs to be sprayed with an herbicide, so I've got my perfect, St. Augustine grass or something. That zone, that landscape zone, ought to be clear of sides. There's pesticides, herbicides, suicides. It's like, I don't like the word side, it's death. So you want that area to be fairly clean. Then the second step is a vegetative buffer zone. And the county right now on all new developments is suggesting a 10-foot buffer zone. And the Florida-friendly landscaping legislation is saying a 10-foot buffer zone. So you have 10 feet where you don't mow every week. You let stuff grow. And that becomes this sponge part of the ecosystem of that pond. And that helps slow the water down. You absorb more of the water in the ground. It filters more of the pollutants out of the pond. And it makes something very special for us, which I'll get to. The littoral zone, and the littoral zone is very interesting because in our original plans for the development of this place, there's a planting plan that tells us exactly what should be planted there. Now, if you look at your ponds, for the most part, you'll see nothing planted in the littoral zone because we've been spraying it for 30 or 40 years so that nothing grows there. And that's where all the baby fish live. And that's where all the herons and the egrets and the major birds want to do their feeding because that's where all the food is. And that's a filter. And we have ignored that for a number of years. So that landscape zone is cover that. Here's another shot of that whole issue of a riparian area, the emergent growth, the littoral growth. And emergent is somewhat, it can be emerging from the water, like this is pickerel weed here. We have pickerel weed we planted in several ponds. It has not been tremendously successful yet, but pond 45 on the closed golf course between McDaniel and Kings has a really nice patch of it. It's a very low flower, purple. I think I've got a slide later in here that shows it. So that littoral zone, that slope shelf, and actually if you look at the plans for when this place was developed, you'll see here's the landscape zone, and then the littoral zone goes on an angle, and then the pond drops off. And Steve's found this in some of his soundings. He's taken some of the ponds, like I think the pond at Brookfield, you said it goes out to about...
Oh yeah, it goes about 10 feet from the shore, but it's 6 feet deep, 6 feet deep. And if you get past that 6-foot barrier, it drops down to 17 feet deep.
Wow.
I mean, it goes just straight down.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we have several ponds that are quite deep.
Right. So when the littoral zone is healthy, it's a miniature wetland consisting of native plants to increase dissolved oxygen and create a vital habitat for fish and organisms. And it reflects the health of the general health of that environment. And here's just another shot of that. You got the terrestrial plants, emergent plants, and floating plants. And different types of plants and how they look. I said I'd get to this something later. This is it. Oxygen. So, I don't know, last fall I think I said, you know, what am I doing with my life besides getting phone calls on ponds all the time? And I said, I want to make more oxygen, because I read some article on how many trees you need per person to live for a year. You know, how much oxygen do you need? You need at least one tree for you, depending on the size of the tree. And how many trees have we cut down in Kings Point this year? You know, and I said to Shauna the other day, every month when we do the report of what the master did, we cut down 18 trees here, we cut down 22 trees there. And that's not counting the trees that the associations cut down or somebody else cut down. No. And the more I think about that, the more I'm thinking, gee, do we want to look like across the street? And one of the beauties of this place is that we do have trees.
Yes, we do.
So we need trees, fish need oxygen, we need oxygen, fish need it, invertebrates need it, bacteria need it, plants provide it, algae doesn't like it. So one of the beauties of doing a proper ecosystem in our ponds is you're adding dissolved oxygen to the pond, which makes the pond healthier. So you're not having fish kills and you're not having the algae growth and things like that. And according to a couple of the different pond experts we've dealt with, they're like, if you build your pond right, you don't have an algae problem. You might have a little algae, and a little algae is okay because some fish like to eat algae, but you don't have the kind of algae blooms that we see here periodically. And then we run in and we spray an acrocide on the pond and, you know, kill everything, and then we do it again, and we do it again, and we do it again. And versus try to make an ecosystem that actually takes care of itself. This is what a lot of our ponds look like, and this is what a normal pond environment would look like. Now, this is not my photograph. This is a photograph by Tampa Bay Estuary Program Executive Director. And we're not looking at going to that extreme unless you want to. You know, but that's a healthy ecosystem around a pond. So there's places for nesting birds, there's places for a variety of different things to go on. So we've collaborated with Hillsborough County Depth Pond Program for the past 3 years. And their whole focus is planting plants in that littoral zone and in that buffer area. The ponds that are discharged directly into Cypress Creek, they provide all the plants. We have to do the installation, but they provide the plants. And we are one of 2 developments in the county that are participating in this project. They take their plans and get them approved by the County Environmental Protection Commission and the Southwest Florida Water Management District. So that helps us with compliance with regulations from the Southwest Florida Water Management District, which we want, because we don't want swift mud, as we call them, to come in here and say, your ponds are not planted according to your original designs, and we're going to give you a fine, and that fine is based on the fact that you're not in compliance with your planting plans, and you have 30 days at whatever, $1,000 a day, $5,000 a day to come up with a compliance plan, and $1,000 a day to get your plantings done over the next 3 months. Now, fortunately, that hasn't happened yet, and we don't want it to happen, because I don't want my HOA fees to go up any more than anybody else does. And so what we've really been trying to do is be in compliance with best management practices, which is all of what I've been talking about, and make sure that when SwiftMud flies over with a drone, and they take a photograph of our lakes, they look down and say, oh, everything looks good, and they keep flying. So that's part of it. And the county's been fabulous also, because they have done all the design work for all of our ponds. So even the ponds that they can't participate in, that don't discharge directly into the creek or the park, They will do all the design work for us. And it's a 3-year project. All plants don't grow. When you put 4,000 plants in, you may get 60% of them to succeed. So there's a replanting every year. And all the plants that we've worked on, ponds we've worked on so far, need replanting. So these are all pond numbers. I know you're gonna all memorize these. There's a test at the end of this of which ponds we did, which years. So the first year of the project, we did ponds 1, 3, 28, 38, 45, 100, and 103. And you know some of these ponds because 1 is at the end of Gloucester, 3 is across the street from my house where the dead papaya tree fell over on Gloucester. 28 and 38, 28's by the garden, 38's the one on Kings Boulevard that's got those tall plants that everybody's complaining about. That are last year's, what happens to a plant after its life cycle, they get old and brown like us. And both of these ponds we're looking at replanting. 45 is on the closed golf course. 100 is not 100, it's 135. 135 is the one at the corner of Vilma and New Point. Okay, and what's in there is basically Gulf Coast spike rush, and it's just kind of ringed that pond. It can only grow in shallow water, it's not going to take over the pond.
It looks nice.
Yeah, and it does, and if you go on a windy day and look at the pond and you see the waves going along, and then it hits the spike rush and all of a sudden the waves go like this, and by the time you get to the shoreline, it's flat. So you're eliminating that shoreline erosion problem and increased sedimentation. And 103 is on Vilmont. It's got spike rush, duck potato, and pickleweed, and that needs a replanting. And then those are the ponds we did the following year, and like one north we haven't done yet. One is a replant, and so it's a process of getting through getting these plants to succeed. I don't know. Yes.
So are these plants considered annuals or perennials?
No, they're perennials.
They're perennials, and do they self-propagate? So if you
Yes.
put one here, then next year you might get another one next year?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, with any luck, they will continue to spread out. Because what you want is a deep-rooted plant that lots of other species like duck potato. We had a pond in Southampton, pond 20, and it was ringed with duck potato. And Southampton 2 didn't want it, and Southampton 1 did want it. And I went to the pond and I looked at it, oh my God, this pond is beautiful. It's exactly what we're trying to do. And people at Southampton 2, no, we don't want it. We don't want this. We don't want this. And I said, but there's baby ducks here. No, there's no baby ducks here. I said, well, come over here and here's some baby ducks. You know, and it's like, you gotta go out and look. It's like red-winged blackbirds and cattails go together. I live on a lake in the summertime. There's no red-winged blackbirds anymore because there's no cattails anymore. You know, and they go right down in the middle of the clump of cattails and have their nest there. And you're not gonna see it. You'll see the red-winged blackbird fly away and you'll hear it, but you won't see the nest. So, and right now, pond 20, they've gone from one neighbor actually going out and spraying Roundup on the duck potato out in front of their house, which is a big no-no. We've got a design with the Adopt a Pond program, and both associations are working together on a plan to do something with that pond. But it's good to go and see that. Yeah.
Most of those sites that you're talking about, the EPA has ruled that they have to break down within 90 days. If you remember back in the 50s and 60s, they had chloridane. If you put that on the lawn, that would like kill everything for like 2 or 3 years.
Right.
Farmers started using chloridane, and they found it in the fish.
Right.
And then they analyzed the human body and they found chloridane in there. So the EPA with all these, plant killers and everything like that, that stuff is designed to break down in 90 days. Dishwashing soap, you know that's gotta be non-toxic, because you wash the dishes, and if you don't get it all off, you're eating it.
Right.
And and it's a wetting agent. It's glycerin based. And Jerry Baker, you can look him up, he's on the internet, Google. He was a famous gardener, and he used to take dishwashing soap and beer, I guess the beer was flat, and mix something else in it and spray his lawn in it. And a wetting agent allows water to wet into the ground. Now, here in Florida, it's not so much of a problem, but you get heavy clay soils, and you need to get that water. And the plants, say St. Augustine grass, you got a drop of water on it, it forms a drop. If you want it to get into the ground, if you had a wetting agent that breaks down, it would allow that to get into the ground and benefit the grass. You talk about trees, but lawns provide a lot of oxygen. And Pennington Grass and the University of Maryland did a study, and I forget, just a little bit of grass, like a little bit of grass outside in front of my condo, provides a tremendous amount of oxygen, maybe more than trees, because there's more surface area for grass than there is for trees. So lawns need to get watered if you want oxygen. Trees help also, yes, but the main thing, I think, you talk about these trees here, most of them are these Florida live oaks. And the leaves something's falling off the trees just about all the time, either the leaves or the nuts or something. That goes into the storm drains, all those leaves and everything like that. And if they don't, the guys that cut the grass, they don't pick up stuff, they blow it.
Into the drain.
And that stuff gets onto the street and into the storm drains, and you get a tremendous amount of silt and everything. For example, you talk about roofs. Do you know that there are copper granules, microscopic copper granules and zinc in the roof? And that's to prevent algae growth. You use the microscopic, and the rainwater in Ruskin is acidic because of the carbon dioxide in the air. It forms a weak acid. Well, it dissolves the copper and the zinc. The zinc I don't think is that toxic, but copper is very toxic.
Right.
And you can have like a copper pot, but it's copper on the outside, not on the inside, because it's poisonous. You get copper poisoning.
Right.
So can you explain to me, if you use dishwashing soap, detergent, let's say detergent, in your house that you wash your dishes on, not putting the dishwasher, hand wash them, you're telling me that that's toxic to clean your car because it's a wetting agent, and that's in there, a glycerin also is in there, and it breaks down, that you shouldn't do that.
So everything from University of Florida is that if you want to wash your car, you wash it on your lawn.
That's right, but you can't
Versus
pull your
washing-
car on the lawn because there's sprinkler heads.
Sure you can.
No, you can't, you got
Depends-
sprinkler heads.
It depends on it depends on the association.
Depends on the
And
Depends on the
the heads are, this is mainly sand, and
Right.
so those heads can rotate. Some people put those rings around them, but they still,
Right.
when they run the lawnmowers over them and
Right.
golf carts, they move.
Right. Yeah, it depends on the association.
You shouldn't.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can't pull your car up on your lawn
Yeah.
to work. But that's really beneficial because that helps the roots of the plant absorb, the wetting agent helps that to absorb it. And all this stuff about all these things around the pond, you got alligators. I've seen an alligator. I saw one that had a head this big, and he was hiding in the culvert. I guess that I'm on pond number 24, and I walked down to see why that little pump wasn't running. It was, it usually bubbles air.
You saw an alligator in 24?
Yeah,
I'm on 24, too. I've never seen an alligator.
well, I have, and it's
Yeah,
hiding in
I
the
believe you.
culvert. It was hiding in the culvert. It was in daytime.
They're everywhere.
That's cool. I really like seeing one in my property.
And so people go down to these ponds, not maybe us, but they got the kids and they're fishing out of these ponds and everything.
The two things that happens here are grandparents or parents that bring their toddlers and small kids to the edge of the
Well, they're
pond.
teenagers.
People fishing, they get too close to the edge. If you talk to, I always go to Bob Smithberg, who was in security here about fishing. He fishes from at least 15 to 20 feet up on the bank. And he's had situations where he's caught a fish, and he's reeling the fish in and watching the alligator chasing the fish. And he and the fish and the alligator all go running in the same direction. Because we live in Florida, and
Yeah, but if you take all that and grow out those banks that slide down, you're gonna have more alligators because they can hide in there.
Well, you shouldn't be down there anyways, so.
Well, I think-
Well, go over to Sun City Center, some woman had a
That's-
dog and sitting on a park bench, and the alligator was behind the park bench.
Well,
Could we get back to our
Yeah.
presentation,
Yeah.
please?
yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, yeah, and the thing is, alligators are everywhere in Florida.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you mow to the water's edge or grow to the water's edge, they're there. And that lady that got caught up in Lutz, you could see the alligator swimming across the pond. They mowed to the water's edge and came right out of the pond, grabbed the dog, she pulled the dog back, and the alligator went after her. So,
And there were no plants.
no, there are no plants at all. So this is what the plans generally look like that the county puts together. What pond is this? Something green,
Fairway.
fairway green.
Is that 25?
Inverness. The other one says
Oh,
Inverness.
Yeah,
Yeah, Inverness. Yeah.
that's the one.
Yeah, Inverness.
Oh,
We
that's
did a
26.
we did a very big plant on that pond, and I think there's over 4,000 plants.
How's that
put in.
one doing?
And we put some trees in, we put some things on the shoreline, we put things in the water. That's pretty much what we've done there.
That's 106.
Yeah, 106. And one of the,
That's ours.
one of the things that we're working on now is making sure we have a maintenance plan to deal with how we, our landscape, I've been trying to get since 2021, or it seems like 1921. We've been trying to get in a landscape contract that the landscapers do not mow to the water's edge and leave, but when they mow, they maybe let the plants get up to say 18 inches, mow it back to 6 inches. So you're not talking about 4-foot plants with alligators hiding there, you're talking about something shorter. And so, but that's what a plan looks like that the county will put together for us. So the status of ponds: mild severe shoreline erosion, steep banks, decreasing water depth, decreasing pond capacities. Need to develop a regular testing schedule for nutrients, dissolved oxygen, nitrogen, heavy metals. Generally, we're in good health given the lack of attention in the past. Increased inspection and documentation. We haven't documented the stuff that we're supposed to do, and if we were inspected, we don't have those inspection reports, so we're working on that. And then working on a 5-year plan to strengthen our stormwater management activities. And that's one of the things that Steve has been doing by going out and measuring the depths of all the ponds. So now we know what ponds we need to think about in terms of sediment removal. We've done no sediment removal in the last 4 years in any ponds here. And generally the life expectancy of a stormwater pond is 30 to 40 years. So we're going to have to start looking at developing a long-term plan to do some of that type of work.
Is Steve's data available?
What's that?
Is Steve's data that he's found available to us?
It can be.
Do you know what pond you live on?
Yeah, I can think of the number though, 13, I think it is, or 14,
Where are you located?
on Princeton.
Oh,
Okay.
13, yeah.
13.
Yeah, 13 is one.
You're George, right?
Yep, I'm George.
Yeah, George.
Yeah, 13's got an average depth of 5.15 feet.
Can we, is it, yeah. I'd like
So
to
that's
get that.
shallow.
Can we finish with the presentation and then ask questions?
Yeah, sure. Okay, improve monitoring, continue littoral zone planting, encourage buffer zones, continue general educational activities, look for more grants, more adopt upon activities. And this is just some examples of, this is pond 3 across the street from me. The fellow across the street has received approval from his HOA, I believe, and he's done a number of plantings around the pond already. And then in addition to that, down here, we have duck potato in here, we have Gulf Coast spike brush, porterweed, and we had some pickerelweed in here. What's happened with this pond over 3 years is every year now we have 5 wood storks that show up for 3 weeks, and they just go around the edge of this pond every day and feed. And it's been interesting the amount of bird life that's increased in this pond since it was planted. We have an alligator, we call him Big Al. He's big, he's 12 to 14 feet. I've been in the pond one behind him. We planted about 100 plants in there, and Big Al didn't bother us, but he came out right after we left to inspect. He's a local pond inspector. He's big. Generally, you know, when you talk to people who work in ponds their whole life, what alligators like are bite-sized morsels. They're like raccoons, they're like toddlers, they're like small dogs. They don't generally like things big because they don't have molars. So it's very tough to digest a regular-sized human because you've got to shake them apart and let them marinate for a few days. This is pond 6 with mild shoreline erosion. There's some shade along there. There's ducks. There's woods on one side of this pond. There's ducks, emergent growth protecting the shoreline. This is in Highgate. This is a pond off Hammersmith, very shallow pond. A lot of lilies, and we spray to keep the lilies down. The lilies, we try to keep at 20 to 25%. So if your pond's got too many lilies, we're going to spray to keep it down. But the lilies lower the temperature of the water. You lower the temperature of the water, you get less algae growth, and you get places for fish to hide and dragonflies to hang out in and that sort of thing. This is pond 15 off Nantucket. It actually is off Nantucket and Vilmont. Kind of butterfly-shaped pond. There's a real shallow area between the two ponds. I mean, it's like 1.5 to 2 feet. So you got, it gets heated up very easily, and it gets a fair amount of growth in there because of it being so shallow. 137. This is the one on the corner of Vilmont and New Point. That's the one I mentioned before with the spike rush and the duck potato. 106 is the pond that you saw the design for. Probably if you go there in another couple of weeks, you'll see a lot of flowers coming out now. This is the pond we planted last year with the 4,000 plants, and a lot of the plants are now taking, so we're seeing a lot of the shoreline become flower infested. This is pond 20 with the duck potato. This is pickerelweed. It's not too high of a plant. I love it. I have a friend who's got a pond with it. It's completely ringed with this. It does a great job of stopping shoreline erosion, and it's a pretty plant. These are all pond plants. So when you think about what your pond can look like. These are all plants who like their feet wet. And as we kind of evolve into this program or this initiative, it's like, okay, how do we do this? What works best? Do we do a section of the pond? Do we do in front of your house and not
Yes.
the neighbor next door that doesn't like flowers at all, and is afraid their view is going to be blocked? So we can do this piecemeal also. This is blue flag iris, nice plant, pretty yellow. This is not yellow canna, but it's a canna, C-A-N-N-A plant, and that comes in multiple different colors. Marsh marigold, and black-eyed Susans. And those of you that are from the north, you know how black-eyed Susans just spread. And they're pretty, and they stay in flower for a long time. So that's kind of what we're aiming toward. Yes?
A lot of these ponds back up to the golf course, and the golf course actually is responsible for it.
Correct.
Are you able to actually plant along the golf course sides of these ponds? Or do you have to get special permission from them? Or?
We have to get special permission from them, but they've been very cooperative. They are, I've had a meeting with their general manager a couple times, and we communicate regularly. 106 was a Club-Link pond, the one that I just showed you the plans for. 108 is about to be planted. What we've been doing, when we initially started the program, the initiative, the master was just saying, yeah, go ahead, you know, whoever wants to go ahead and do this. And we go to you first and say, you know, are you interested in joining the Adopt a Pond program? Get your neighbors on board, and let's get a design, and let's figure out the funding for it. Okay, and right now, we've got $10,000 in the budget for this year for planting and $20,000 next year. It's pretty well spoken for right now, but you know, it could be, geez, I only want to do a little clump in front of my house. Can you give me 50 plants? I mean, the plants are 32 to 50 cents a piece. So if you want to buy a bunch of plants, you know, we can make that happen. Annie?
Can I put in a plug for the fundraisers too?
Yes.
February 27th, Steve's band, Down Home, is performing at Veterans Theater. And the tickets are, it's from 5:30 on, and BYO everything. And $15 a ticket, and it's just about 100% going for fundraising, and it's going to be allocated towards exactly this kind of thing. And one of the things that we want to do too is to add in some small, what I'm calling beauty spots, which are small, like 3 to 4 foot by 10 to 15 foot little gardens on the terrestrial area on the edge of a pond, not the part that gets its feet wet. So another way of attracting in the birds and getting color and butterflies and just adding to our beauty. There's another one on March 10th, and that is during the day. That's from 12 to 3, and that's a carnival fun fair. And you get to play silly games, win prizes. We're going to give prizes every
Buy baklava?
Yeah, we're going to give prizes every 45 minutes so that you don't have to stay for 3 hours to see if you won. And all those tickets are available at the box office. Really appreciate it if you guys not only get tickets, but drum up people and fill up a table for the 27th, and just bring your friends and come and play some games and have some laughs on the 10th.
And Steve's band plays things from what? Baroque music to...
Our oldest song, no, Baroque.
No.
Our oldest song was released in 1923. And
Past
we play-
100 years.
Yes, and we play everything from there pretty much on to what's going on now. It's a huge variety of stuff.
I have a question. I've often wondered, what's the difference between our ponds and those kind of long,
Swale.
well, the waterways that go into the creek, like that go circle around the edge of a golf course or whatever.
Like a ditch.
They kind of connect with each other.
Yeah, everything, so when they designed this place, it's a combination of swales, which is, I mean, I think you'll see swales in Southampton. A lot of the houses the back of the house dips down, and then you've got that berm, that's a swale, so it's a low spot. And that swale should be pitched toward something else, eventually either a drain or a culvert or a pond. So all those are kind of tied together with the whole stormwater movement system.
What about up at the end of Gloucester, where Big Al goes up there?
Right.
What's that? Is that a pond? It goes under the street then and goes on into the...
Okay, so at the end, that's pond one.
Okay.
Pond one starts in G's, not Glenmore, not Glen Ellen, Loop. It's the loop at the end of the G section over there. It starts there, it goes Gainsborough, it goes behind Gainsborough, it goes behind Glen Ellen, it goes behind Glenmore, it comes out to Gloucester, and then there's 3 weirs which go underneath Gloucester Boulevard, and that creek, when it's wet, flows into Cypress Creek.
So that's considered a pond, that whole big long...
That's one big pond.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Thank you.
Good.
Me? Okay, I got a couple, they're all real short. When ponds are going, like my pond's gonna get something done to it eventually, how do we get fish back introduced into there? Because I don't think there's many fish in my pond. I mean, is there a way to, have fish put into the pond?
Sure.
Okay, how do you do that? Is that something we pay for?
Probably
or
the
is that-
easiest way is we go to Sportsman's Club and say, hey, how about you guys
Some fish, okay.
repopulating
Yeah.
some of our
The next one
ponds?
was that.
We have not done any fish studies.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
all right.
We're in the process of changing pond contractors.
That was one of my questions, is how close are we getting to a new one?
I can't answer that question.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know.
Okay, and you said all of the ponds have weirs? My pond has a weir?
No, they don't all.
Okay, that's what I didn't think mine
If it
did.
doesn't have a weir, that means it doesn't go anyplace.
Yeah, that's
So,
kind of what I
we'll
thought.
check,
I
because
know
sometimes the
going
weirs are hiding behind
Yeah, I didn't
trees.
think my pond went anywhere.
Yeah.
All right, and I
Yeah.
came up with a good slogan for, for getting wildlife back.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come.
That's right.
The movie.
I like the flowers along the ponds edge, but who's gonna weed, pull out the creeping Charlie and stuff like that?
That's one of the things that we're working
I mean,
with the
you-
Federation on looking at the maintenance of a buffer zone.
Mm-hmm.
Just a point of information, the snowbirds might not know this, this is beautiful weather for you guys, and it doesn't rain, but in the summer, we can have, we call them frog chokers, because they can drop 3 to 6 inches of rain in like 10 minutes.
Right,
And it fills ponds up, and we have a lot of flow.
right,
And that's in the summer.
right.
And sometimes later summer, but yeah, we have a lot of flow of water here. And the flow of water is very powerful,
Right.
so.
Yeah, and we're getting more and more large rain events
Correct.
as time goes on.
Yeah, I want to know, I live in, I don't remember, Steve, you remember the pond number I'm on? They put a new pump in,
Yeah.
brand new pump. The old one, I didn't know, maybe it was cracked. But I'm sure they spent thousands of dollars putting this new pump in. I guess the irrigation system, is that what's hooked to those pumps to irrigate the lawns? Has a valve setting on top that has been spewing water, none in the grass, of course. My grass is dead as I look out there. But it has eroded the bank. Steve's gonna come and look at it. Now, from me to you, just washed it into the
Into the pond.
You can see the sand that has gathered just away from it.
So-
I've called for service numerous times.
Wrong place. The master is in charge of irrigation. Don't call First Services.
Oh, yeah. It's,
So remember,
upkeep.
yeah, remember how this place is organized, okay? The DPW, the Department of Public Works, is the master. So anything dealing with roads, bridges, irrigation, stormwater is the master, okay? And if you use upkeep or your POC, or you just dial the master office, and Kathy Crawley usually answers the phone.
There was a lady named Kathy that I spoke to.
And generally, she will send out Denny, who's a very large guy, and he'll take a look at it and see what has to happen.
Usually they're right
Well,
on.
I've seen numerous people
Yeah,
look,
yeah, and
turn around, walk away.
and is it, I'm not sure if your pond is a quarterling pond or,
No, we just got homes around. It's Lyndhurst,
Wait a minute, you're-
Sidefield.
what pond are you?
Steve, I don't know. You
Where
come
the
up, you
streets-
come
where
up
the
the
streets
south,
are? Where the-
south exit, you come into the south exit, go to the stop sign, make a right. I'm right there.
Sure, you're Lyndhurst.
Yes,
26.
26.
And those ponds are recharge ponds. Okay, so there's a number of wells that we have to recharge the ponds so you can irrigate, so you can have irrigation.
Is that just for our pond, that?
I think there's 6, do you know, Cheryl?
I don't know.
No, I think there's 6 recharge ponds, maybe. And they're generally tied in with the irrigation system. Otherwise, this time of the year, all of our ponds would be empty and your grass would be browner than it is now.
I understand the pond committee works under the master association, right?
Right.
And what's the purpose of this committee? To give recommendations to master? Or-
Yes, yes. Any
So
committee
you
that,
have your own plan of reviewing the pond status, and then you give recommendations to master,
yes,
and master make a plan?
we pretty much we give the master the plan and then they say yes or no. And then, to a great degree, we then go out to either contractors or grant sources or whatever. And I mean, most of the Adopt a Pond program, people who have, like Alan, for instance.
But master's supposed to give you funds, right?
Say again?
The money, master is supposed to give you funds for
Right,
plan.
so-
So you can't work independently without master.
Correct. Correct. We are a committee of the master. We report to them.
Yeah.
So last August, I worked with the master to say what's our budget going to be for next year. Okay, and they've allocated a certain amount of money. Professional services, so if we need an engineer to do something on the
So they
stormwater.
allocate some money for funds.
Yes.
Development.
There's 3 different accounts. Professional services, if we need engineering services. The pond contractor for spraying the ponds and things like that, and planting. So those are the 3 items in the master budget that deal with pond. And then there's repair money. Okay, so if something happens to one of the weirs, there's money in the budget to repair the weir.
Emergency kind.
Yeah, and that's all under the master. Okay? Other questions?
If you have a weir and you're not on any golf course, I'm on Radisson and Oxford,
Right.
and the weir it's been repaired on both sides where it was cracked. And who's responsible for that? The master? If it
Correct.
fails?
Correct.
Which is what.
Well, you want to report it before it fails.
I did.
Yeah, yeah. And it doesn't keep reporting, if squeaky wheel gets the grease.
That's right, yeah, that's right.
Here.
Yeah,
To the master.
yes,
Once a week.
Once a
Easy
week.
enough.
right, right. Other questions? Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
You said about a 60% success rate with the plants. What typically, why do they not grow? I know one time when the water level dropped so low, I saw Hillsborough County out there watering them because they weren't in the water anymore, but what?
Yeah, that was one reason. Drought.
But other than that, not.
Drought's one reason. And that was pond 1. And I was out there watering too. I put 5-gallon pails on my golf cart. Drought, some fish like plants. We have some fish that like to eat plants. So like a lot of people like, what are they called? What's that fish that likes to eat?
Carp.
Carp? Yeah, those, it's the carp that are supposedly neutered. They like to eat those plants. So one of the things when we plant, we want to make sure we get enough plants so we can fulfill the carp diet plus have enough left over so that they'll reinvigorate. It could be an insect, it could be a virus, it could be a bacteria, it could be anything in our system that likes to eat plants.
Not the pH level of the water probably.
It could be chemical, sure. One of the problems we've had is duck potato seems to grow really well in our ponds. We've not been as successful with pickerelweed and blue flag iris.
The blue flag iris is looking great at 106.
Right. But, and it's starting to come back in pond 1.
Yep.
But pond 1 got really nailed in the drought, whereas 106 is a recharge pond. So there's a lot of environmental factors. And what's interesting is the original design for this place, they talked about replanting in the original design when they said this is what you're going to put in the littoral zone, and you've got to replant it until you have at least 75% success rate in that particular lake or pond. So it's, and it's no different than a garden. I planted one kind of lettuce 5 times this year, and finally 2 plants germinated. Bad seeds or whatever.
What's underneath the pond? Is it lined with plastic?
No.
Clay?
No.
What keeps the water?
The water table.
Just the water table?
Right.
Okay, what is the temperature of the water during the summertime when the pond is only, let's say, 6 feet deep?
Hot.
Pardon?
Hot.
Yeah, I know, but how hot is hot? Doesn't that kill the fish? I mean, there's it's been 100 degrees and...
The fish will go down as far as they can.
Yeah. I think a lot of alligators eat the fish too. I mean,
Alligators like to eat things that swim by slowly.
yeah.
They're a lazy feeder from what I understand. I'm going to stay underwater, open my mouth, and if something swims in my mouth, I'm going to close it. Yeah.
They hate jumping out.